I have just waved goodbye to Özlem for our second conversation, which centers a lot on parenting for some reason. Parenting, but also rules and guidelines and finding me in that, finding what matters to me, finding what makes sense to me, finding what it feels like when I'm a yes or a no. Um, in conversation, which I think can be a really powerful tool in finding what makes sense to me. So enjoy. And towards the end, there's a little ask from me and Aslam about you sharing what your version of us going to improv is. So please let us know. I'd I'd love to hear what your version of that would be. So enjoy and have fun. Tell me that again.
Well, I listened to my pod being one of my bucket lists that I think I mentioned it last time. Maybe I didn't, but it was quite interesting to listen to myself in a pod. It was good. It was almost like I knew what I was going to say, which I did obviously. But it was interesting. It was a good experience. It was a nice new experience.
So
I'm
what
happy.
did you pick up on?
I picked up, well, during the recording, I felt like there wasn't a red thread on what we were discussing, but afterwards, I listened to it, it was like, yeah, there was actually a red thread. So good job, Helena. I guess you were facilitating it, but it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
But it is that thing where I think because it is truly meandering conversations. They go where they want to go, but there is, like you say, afterwards you can see the common thread that holds it all together. And it is often I often work that way that I refer back to what has been said. It can
Yeah,
also be back to what's been said in another conversation or another thing. So it's like this connecting, this weaving together, I
yeah,
think is what you pick up on. And yes, I do that, but I think we do that. I think people do that.
yeah, perhaps. Yeah,
Many people, at least. Maybe not everyone, but I think a lot of people do.
yeah. Well, you're obviously right. You have proven yourself right. So I have no arguments there.
Good, 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 good. So, how are you today?
I'm quite fine. Yeah, I've been sleeping well, eating well, exercising moderately. So, you know, check on those things. So, good place.
What do you do for exercise?
Walk the dog, obviously, 2 to 3 times a day, half an hour each. So that's good walk. He's getting better and better. Going to the gym one, maybe 2 times a week. I have this on Mondays. I'm a gym host. So I'm training while I'm being a host for those who have questions, and then we close down the gym together, me and this other person, and do some cleaning. And that's good because that's an obligation. So you don't want to cancel that one. So it's good. So you can't sit on a couch and say, "Ah, I couldn't be bothered today." You have to go because the whole place relies on you to lock it down. So you have to go. So it's really good to have that.
Is that a local little gym?
Yeah, no, it's Friskis and Svettis. It's one
Yeah.
of those people movements here in Sweden. Us being
Yes.
a very, I'm sure, say society like that, that we have all these, what do you call it? Where you do things ideelt. What's that
Yeah.
called?
Well,
It be-
NGOs is kind of the thing. It's like
Sort
it
of, yeah.
is
It's
not
volunteering in a
governmental.
way.
It's volunteered. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So look,
and Friskis and Svettis must have many years
yeah, yeah, they do.
now.
It's a how to say voluntary gym chain owned by its members in a way. So it's like a
Yeah.
cooperative. You could
Yeah.
almost call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a cooperative. Cool. Have you been involved with Friskis and Svettas a long time?
No, maybe a year and a half. My wife started their training, and now she's a gym instructor. So sometimes I tag along on her events, and then she sort of got me into it as well. So I was like, yeah, I can help out, and it's a good deal. You know, you have to go there and be responsible of the place, and it's a good positive stress to go to the gym. And while they're there, you might as well, like move some weights around.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good.
Women rule.
Yeah. Do
Good.
you
Happy
do
to hear
you
that.
do any exercise?
Yes and no. I don't go to the gym. I don't take any classes. I don't get myself off the property to do anything like that. Um, but I don't have a car,
Yep.
so I bike everywhere.
Yeah. So you do some exercise. You have a garden, I
And
guess.
I walk a lot. I have a garden. So yes, and I do, for let's see, I have it here. For 2,852 days in a row, I have been doing a little 7 morning routine, which is never the same routine. I don't do 10 burpees, 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, etc. But I move my body for at least 7 minutes every day. Um, and I've been texting a friend of mine. We've been texting back and forth for 2,852 days in a row. Um, so there's a lot of movement in my life, even though, it's like there could I could fit in more movement for
Yeah,
sure.
but still, you do a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not having a bike, walking. Sorry, not having a car, biking and walking everywhere, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and uh, great. That's
Yeah. And I have the added bonus that often I'm working on this. I have gotten much better at not being a time optimist. Um, but I have the tendency to kind of bike fast to where I'm going, and then I really get my heart pumping. And then when I'm coming home, I do it much more slowly because then I'm
okay.
not stressed by the time or anything. Um, so I do get the pulse. I get the cardio from biking. Um,
So
and
it's
I
good
really
that you
enjoy it.
So it's good that you underestimate time then, so you can do
Yeah.
those
And
fast rushes to your
because now and
uh,
again, boy, it's fast.
to your
Now and again, it's like,
could
"Shh."
be late appointment. So you have to like really pedal really really quickly on
Yeah,
those
yeah,
on the bike. Yeah, well, that's
yeah,
good. That's good.
yeah. So and I like to log things even though I'm logging less and less things, but one of the things I log is I have Runkeeper on my phone, and I've had Runkeeper since I think 2009.
Wow.
So I was a fairly early adopter. And I've logged, thousands of because I put it on when I'm biking into town or when I'm taking a walk, etc. So, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So I can see from Runkeeper how my average pace biking has really gone up. I got rid of the car 2015, I think. And that's when I started to really bike more and more. So the average pace for my biking has slowly gone up.
Yep.
So I probably bike, 20 kilometers an hour is probably fairly
Yeah, that's good.
average right now. And I think when I first got rid of the car, probably it was, 15, 16 kilometers an hour, maybe the average. So it's really,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
has gone up. I have a good bike. Um, what do you call that? Kondition is
Stamina.
yeah, stamina was my thing too,
endurance,
but
stamina, something like that. Yeah.
hmm,
But let me ask you: Do you miss? Do you ever miss not? Do you ever miss having a car
no.
from day
Right
one that you
now,
got rid of it?
I'm really, really happy I got rid of it. We were lousy car owners. It's like, I have to put oil in it and pump the car or the tires and, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Right now, I have the car I have my oldest kid's car for a couple of days, and so yesterday and today, I'm working at a client's place, which is 50 kilometers away. So normally, I bike up to Toilet and get on the bus. But today and yesterday, I will take her car, which, it saves me an hour. Um, but I really don't like it. No, it's like,
No, and also depends on what you do during that hour. Like if you listen to a podcast or read a book, then it's not an hour commuting. It's an hour of being with yourself and doing the things that you enjoy. So
yeah,
you shouldn't count commuting if you, in a way, enjoy it. Like
yeah,
I enjoy, I do. We have a car, but it's mostly up on the driveway. Both me and my wife, we take the bus. I have one of those foldable bikes that I take on the bus
yeah.
that fits like between the seats in the bus. I've had that for like 10 years now. It's
Oh, cool.
and yeah, and on the bus, you get time to do wind down, read the newspaper if you want to do that, listen to a podcast, listen to some music. So you're like, when you come home, you can sort of turn off work
Yeah,
in a better way. So
yeah. It's a
I
transition
enjoy
time.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I always have like rainy clothes in my bag, so the weather is not an issue. It works fine. We've been discussing if we shouldn't have a car, but we have smaller kids and sometimes things happen. But now we're gonna get an electrical car so we can drive more with conscience, and not care about oil. Just take care of the brakes and the tires, in a way. So, but yeah, I understand what you mean. I could totally sympathize with it and get inspired with it. So one day, like it would probably cheaper for us to not own a car and just pay for cab every time or rent a car
Yep,
every time we
yep.
were need a
When you
car. But
actually
it's
need it, yeah,
yeah,
because it does cost a lot. And I'm lucky enough. I have my next door neighbor. She has a car that I get to borrow
yeah, we also yeah.
if I need one, and then I have two other friends locally who are, and one of them is like, they have 2 cars, and they are so happy if they can support me to not have a car, they are glad to do that.
Ah,
And then there's rentals and, carpools and whatnot. So it's like it's not an issue, um, at all. It works. And the thing is, it is so easy for me to be lazy. When I have a car here, I'm lazy.
I
So
understand.
much better not to have it because then the choice is public transport or bike, and bike is faster.
Yeah,
It's like,
usually.
well, it's faster. I was actually speaking to Mandel about this. I have my chiropractor on the other side of town. It's 13 kilometers or something.
Yeah,
It's faster going by bike than by bus. It
yeah,
takes an hour by bus if you time it. It takes me something between 35 and 45 minutes depending on how late I am and depending on the wind.
yeah.
Uh,
But I was thinking about something like we're not a good biking country, are we here in Sweden?
well, we're actually better than most or than many.
Maybe it's so. Yeah,
Danes are better. Copenhagen is a better biking town. There's a lot of bikes in Copenhagen.
yeah,
Um, but compared to the US, we're a really, really good biking
yeah. You can't
country.
really. Yeah, yeah. Maybe you're right. It depends on who you compare us with. But I'm thinking
Yeah,
here where we live, Skåne, it's quite flat, so
yeah,
you should be able to pretty much take
yeah.
the bike anywhere. But
Everywhere. Yeah,
um, my work is about 20 kilometers. So I could take the bike to work,
yeah.
but I do take the bike to work with the bus, obviously. But it's just that the roads are not that bike friendly, so that's why.
Landsväg.
Yeah, and I don't want to be on those
No,
roads with my
when there's
bike
not when there's like this much,
right next to cars going in
half
90,
half
100
a
kilometers.
meter to bike on.
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't do that either.
nah.
Um, but I mean, it's getting more and more. I mean, it's the same distance between Malmö and Lund, and I would say that there's a lot of people who go by bike.
Yeah,
But there are bike lanes, specific bike
exactly.
lanes, so it's a
Yeah,
safer.
and you can have those electric bikes that really give you some extra push, so then you
Yeah,
don't have to be all
yeah,
sweaty when you arrive to
yeah,
work.
yeah. Which is I 2016, the city of Malmö had this drive where you got to borrow an electric bike for 3 weeks.
Oh,
So I did that, and I really enjoyed it, and I decided, I'm not gonna get myself an electric bike because I need all the exercise I can get, so I don't want to have the electric bike because I don't believe I have um,
the need.
the
Yeah.
moral fortitude not to turn on the electricity. If I'm biking with an electric bike, I will have that electric engine on.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand what you mean. Yeah.
Plus it's fast.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
you
I can bike fast. I can bike past electric bikes now and again, but it is in general fast, and it's a little bit scary fast.
yeah, and I guess when you like in 25, 30 years from now, you can then you can get an electric bike because then it feels like you can manage. But if you get used to it, then there's nothing to elevate yourself up to, so you can keep enjoying biking. So
Yeah,
I think it's as long as you don't need it.
yeah,
But if it's if it's a longer route to work,
yeah,
then I think like 20 kilometers or more, then electric bike could be a good option instead of having a car because
yeah,
maybe you don't want to take the normal bike because it's too far.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it it depends totally on your individual needs and circumstances.
yeah. Like everything else. I
Yeah.
had somebody I listened to somebody say, "Oh, I hate it depends." But I'm going, "But it's a really, really good response because it's shit, it depends." You
Yeah,
know?
well, imagine if the world was like all black and white, like right and wrong. We would be like, you know, eh, when I was a leader, people always tell me, "But why can't we just have like clear responses on the yes or no?" I'm like, "Why don't we all exchange you for robots then, and you just press in, and then it tells you yes or no." It's all about being human. So it would be easier if there always was a yes or no answer, but then we could exchange us for robots because then it's too simple. And that got them thinking, and I'm saying, yeah, okay, maybe you have a point because so we're all about humans, so you can't have right or wrong. You can't simplify like that because then you miss the thing about being human and having different needs in different times and in different moods and all those kind of nuances. So yeah, uh, I love in navigating in the gray area in a way because that develops and gives you a sense of accomplishing something when you can do that rather than putting up rules. I'm not saying you don't need rules. Obviously, you need rules, but not too much because sometimes you need to. It depends on circumstances and interactions and whatever happens.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Um, a friend of mine blogged about the inner compass. He works with kids. He's a fritidspedagog.
Yep.
Uh, so after school. Um, and rules or guidelines are really good when they help you sense into yourself to help you feel the answer, so to speak, to feel like, okay, yes, if I'm respectful here, if I'm not running there, if I'm not shouting here,
Absolutely.
this happens. But rules are not good if they are enforced in such a way that you just learn how to obey.
Yeah.
rather than learn how to pick it up on the inside. Because if you're then in a situation, if you've learned how to obey the yeses and the nos, and you just learned by rote rather than understand the feeling inside when I'm a yes, when I'm a no. If you're then in a situation where there's no rules, chances are you won't be making very beneficial decisions if if you don't know what it feels like when you're a yes or what it feels like when you're a no,
Yeah.
and there's
Absolutely.
nobody around who says yes or no, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, absolutely, and like children need rules, obviously, so it doesn't become chaotic. Like when should they eat candy, or when should they go to bed, or how much screen time they should get, and all those kind of things. Some people with like autism obviously needs rules to function properly. So we need rules, but sometimes we also need to be able to adapt, so we don't rely too much on the rules because they can inhibit progress and development as well.
And I'm it's like, yes, and I wonder at that as well, at like screen time, or you have to put the kid to bed at a certain time, it needs to sleep. It's like, again, if we learned also from a young age, what happens if I sit in front of a screen 12 hours? And we learn to reflect. If we learn, if there's somebody modeling that, if there's somebody modeling reflection, if there's somebody who helps me make the connection between I've been sitting in front of the screen all day, I have a headache, my back hurts, my eyes are dry, and I'm jittery, right? It's like if there's somebody there who helps me make the connection, again, maybe we don't need as many enforced rules as we think. Maybe we need more to be helped
Understand consequences.
to understand consequences and to yeah, precisely to feel ourselves, to feel what does my body feel like when it says, "Move, Helena, you've been sitting still." You know, and how much of my trained responses are to ignore that, to ignore that, to ignore that, at the detriment of me. But because there's somebody who says that I need to work 8 hours or because, there's a deadline or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff going on in society where I are are taught not to listen. We're taught not to hear what the system that is me is actually signaling.
Yeah, I think you are a bit too progressive for me there when it comes to letting go and letting my kids themselves discover because I'm not maybe I underestimate them, but I'm not sure if they're mature enough to make the connection because sometimes I have a headache, Dad. I'm like, have you drank some water? No, or maybe you should. But it's not because of that. How do you know it's not because of that? And so then we get into an argument. So I don't know, maybe working more proactively in a way that um, screen time, like I programmed the iPad so they can only use it for 2 hours a day. So they need to like economize their usage in a way, but certain apps they can use, which is educational. So I don't know if I'm doing them a favor or not, but your thought scares me a little bit to let go, and maybe when they become older, like teenagers, maybe then they will be more mature to um, get those sense. But now they can easily sit in front of the TV the whole day, and then suddenly they are I would say understimulated and start arguing and just like and then you say them, but it's because you watch TV. Like, "No, don't blame the TV. I love the TV." I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So I don't know, Helena. I'm not mature enough to go there where you. I understand what you're saying, but nah, I don't know. Nah,
Yeah.
not yet.
I have a friend, Rebecca, who does radical unlearning. Mm. And it's the interesting thing about the work that she does is that so much of parenting is the reactions of the parent. No,
Yes,
we put it onto the kids, but it is our discomfort, it is our fear, it is our anxiety, it is our beliefs,
100%.
all of it. And it's like, and I am not a radical unlearner. It's like I can say these things and I ponder them and I have implemented some of it, but far from everything. Plus, now my kids are big. Um, but but it is interesting this thing how so much of if I can have conversations with my older relatives about having a cap on, because especially my oldest has been a cap kid. She's worn her cap, everywhere.
Indoors, for example.
Indoors and
Yeah,
outdoors and this, that, and the other thing, and it's so interesting to hear or see the frown of my, elder relatives, and, "You're not supposed to wear a hat indoors." And if you start to think about that thing, no, you're not supposed to wear a hat indoors. Where does that come from? Okay, it comes from religion to a large extent. The priests were allowed to wear a hat indoors, but nobody else. So it's an authoritarian way of looking. And if you just start to dig into
yeah,
it, and it is this all of these beliefs, all of these inherited rules or the not spoken, this is how we do it. Um, and it's just uncomfortable. And it's so much easier to stick to you're not supposed to wear a cap indoors
yeah.
instead of going into yourself and really digging into what's the discomfort there? Where does this come from? How many times were you told off as a kid because you forgot to take your cap off? It's like there's so much to dig into there.
You know, according to what you're saying, I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere that the reason why the father walks the bride or the daughter to the aisle and then hands over it to the groom is because it comes from older age when you wanted to make sure that the bride didn't run away. And that's a terrible thing. And now it's become a tradition that like you don't want to be without it because it's. But if you think about where it comes from, if it's true, but it makes sense. But I don't
Makes
know if it's.
sense.
But
Yeah,
I don't know if it's true. But that's terrible
yeah,
in a way.
yeah.
Uh, but now lots of people look forward to it because it's like I don't know. You see it as a nice. It has a whole different meaning now. But
Precisely.
but
And
where it
it's
comes
interesting
from?
also because that is not a Swedish tradition at all.
No.
It has become a Swedish tradition because of the influence of Hollywood movies and stuff. So there's much more of that today, but in Sweden it has not been like that. In Sweden
Yeah.
it is the bride, the groom and the bride walk down the aisle together,
Yeah.
right? So it's like all of those things are so interesting. Where does again, and that's kind of those are the gray areas. It's like
Yeah.
not taking it at face value, but going a little bit deeper. What's behind this? Where does it come from? I mean, marriage in and of itself is a, you know, patriarchal invention to make sure that we know that inheritance goes within the blood, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in that view, it really makes sense to make sure that you have the potential bride, and I'm her father, and I'm holding on, and then I drop her off to you so that nobody can sully her in the meantime, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But according to what you said, my wife said the other day that when we were hunter and gatherers, it was much more equal between the genders. But once we settled down and became farmers, that's when the roles became, like what
Much
women
more
do and what men do
cemented.
because of the physical circumstances. And then from there on, that's when gender inequality started.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense. And I like things that make sense. It's hard to prove it, but yeah, because when you're hunter gatherers, everyone has to contribute the same way because everyone needs to run, everyone needs to hunt, everyone needs to take care of the children. But once you become settlement, well, then bigger, stronger bodies do the work outside of the home, and then someone needs to take care of the kids. Who is that? Well, it's not as strong sex in a way, like physically, it's women. I thought it was interesting. Like
mhm,
it makes so much sense and puts things in a context, and you start understanding where it all comes from and how deeply it is within us. And like that sort of explains why it's so difficult to get more equality because it's so way back
yeah.
in a way.
But it also is helpful in a sense because it also means that it isn't built into the system. It is
Exactly. It's
culture.
created.
It
Yeah.
is a creation, precisely. It
Yeah.
is not, "This is how we do it," because of genes or because of physiology or anything. It is how we do it because of culture.
Yeah, and then you get an understanding, and then you know how to unlock it in a way. And sometimes that's where we sometimes don't give the time to understand where it comes from. We just black or white, like we said before, right or wrong. We blame, and we don't go into depth. Where does this come from? Like I've been thinking about like different kind of upbringings. In for example, where I have my roots in Turkey, children start off by having lots of freedom. They can pretty much do anything they want, like we said before. And the more they act like adults, the more proud and fun parents think it is. So kids in that culture, not that much now because Turkey's become westernized, but I remember when I was a kid, my kids my age, they could do anything and get away with it. It was very, very interesting. And the older they got, the more rules and were forced upon them. And then suddenly, like school, they started to have homework, and up until a certain age where you decided who they should marry.
Mm.
So it started very liberal and became more and more law enforcement in a way. And then once they became an age, they would decide who they should marry and live with the rest of life with. While here in Sweden, it's I noticed it's totally the opposite. Like there's a lot of rules on kids from the beginning, like standing cues, the way you speak, your voice. If you get tantrum, you talk soothingly and tell them that's not the way to do it. And then the older they get, the less and less rules, and the more and more adulthood prepares them. And once they're 18, now you're an adult.
Yeah,
So do you want to move? Do you want to move away from home? Go ahead.
yeah,
And imagine the conflict when people come from that culture where the rules at home become stricter and stricter, while in society becomes more and more liberal. I'm thinking get, that must confuse a lot of
mm,
people to the act that they're really nice angels at home because they have rules, but once they're outside of home, there's no rules. They can do whatever they want, get away with it. Pretty much even get away with crime because they're underaged in a way. So I'm thinking a lot of problems could be there in the
mm.
different kind of opposite upbringing when it comes to enforcing rules. In a way, it was just a thought that I had like a few years ago that I've noticed, and that has also made a lot of sense in a way that the people that come from other countries to Sweden, we have a different way of with rules in families. I don't know if that makes sense to
Yeah,
you, or if you have any thoughts on it.
it makes very good sense, and it's let's say I mean, I started to go to therapy when my oldest kid was 3, 4 years old I could because I noticed in myself how many rules I put on her, how I wanted to control her behavior because it was kind of like she was a proxy for me. So everything that I enforced on me, I also enforced on her. It's like, oh no, this is not the parent that I want to be. It is the parent that I am, but it's not who I want to be. And so I started to go to therapy, um, which was really, really good. But on the other thing that pops in my mind is also there's a lot of indigenous peoples or cultures where you don't say any angry words or anything to kids because you just don't. So I have told my kids off. Man, have I ever rah, 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 on them for doing bad things that I perceive, etc. But there are indigenous cultures where you don't do that. Period. You do not tell off your kids, your small kids. You don't say you're not angry with them. You're not upset with them. You don't voice that to them.
Wow, imagine that composure and being able to do that. Phew.
Yeah, how much do I have, yeah, precisely. But the reason for it is that in a sense it's similar to what you're speaking about the Turkish upbringings, at least back in the days. It is this thing where it's a small child. We are to gently guide and nourish this kid. And the telling off, the harsh words, the screaming at your kid, the scaring your kid is then not deemed to be a good path, a good way to do that. Uh, so it's like,
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of tankespjan at the moment,
good.
which this is about. So yeah, I'm just reflecting on how I am in a way, and how do I want to be another way? I don't know. Like a lot of thoughts going in here. There's no right or wrong answer on parenting. Obviously, we have a lot of rules. Well, depends on what you but yeah, we do. When it comes to things like candy, what time they should go to bed, practicing their cello or their violin, which they want to do, but at the same time don't want to practice. My screen time, obviously. Um, Go outside, move, so like their body gets adapted to movements, the coordination. Taking responsibility for the dog, they also wanted us to get. So I don't know if I want to skip those, but maybe I don't know. A lot of feelings right now, and tankespjan. So that's what this is about. So it's good. It's all good,
Mhm.
but not comfortable, but good.
No, precisely. I think that's precisely the thing, right? It is this daring to be and to sit with that discomfort.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, there's something about acceptance and or the wanting the world to be the way I want the world to be about, at least that's for me, has been part of my own way of parenting, but it's also what I see uh, in other parent child interactions that I'm observing is this desire to have the kid do what I want them to do, be how I want them to be, act how I want them to act, look the way I want them to act. you know, it's a birthday dinner, you have to have the pretty clothes on, but I'm comfortable in this. No, you can't do that because you
Yeah,
have to,
no.
it's like there's so many, it's from the
Yeah.
tiniest things up to the big things. It's like, you know, visiting grandma or grandpa, you have to hug them, hello, but I don't want it. You have to. You have to.
No. Well, those things that you just mentioned, they are totally okay, yeah, for us. But it's more that I tell them like, okay, grandpa's on the phone. He really misses you. He would appreciate if we said hi. Could you consider just giving him a few minutes of your time? Like we're having those kind of discussions. Like, yeah, okay, I don't know, I don't want to. And I say, well, she's not in the mood right now. And my dad gets sad, obviously, but they have to also acknowledge for the integrity. Hugging people? No. What about when they get older and a boy says we need to have sex? She will not be able to say no because she hasn't learned how to put
Yeah,
boundaries. So
yeah.
you have to think about preparing, putting the rules, but also, like you said, putting those strong willpower to prepare them for adulthood or becoming older. But staying up because they want to be with me and my wife when because then they will not be the best themselves and there will be more conflicts when they go to school. Well, in weekends, no problem. When it's school holidays, no problem, but not during school nights because they need their rest. So it totally depends. I, I, I don't think anarchy is the right way.
And I'm not
For sure.
sure that that is the outcome. Actually, that's the thing. I don't believe that a rule-less home will revert to anarchy. It might become a touch anarchistic, but then I believe that there will be a way to do things that will arise. I'm just curious about if that thing that arises is more in sync with the individual, is
Yeah,
more in sync because there are people who are early risers and there are people who are late going to bedders, right? It's like that's not okay in society because in society school starts at 8 for work or right? So it's
yeah,
like, and yes, okay, if school starts at 8, then I have to be there. Yeah, sure. Then you have to learn how to manage that. But at the same time, what would happen if schools didn't have to start at 8, but school was a learning center where you came because you wanted to learn, because you wanted to be with people, because you are curious about something, and that's the place where you find out
I
about the
agree.
things you're curious about. And some people would be there at 4:30 in the morning. Other people would come in around 4:30 in the afternoon.
I agree. I agree.
It's like it doesn't I don't believe anarchy is is the other side of that coin. I actually don't believe that. It might be on the route to, probably as a reaction to rules. And then the if rules were to just be taken off, maybe there would be this flash of anarchistic, mayhem. But I think it would settle into something where maybe rules were then more in sync with me. And I do believe there's in most of us there is the which I think is innate. We are group people. We are tribe people, right? We are not single solo animals. It's like, no, we belong in groups. So the calibration of what works for my group, this is my desires and needs and wants. Those are yours, and those are the other 15 in our group. What's the group needs? What's the group desires? How can we work this out? That might mean that I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning now and again, even though I'd rather get up at 4:30 in the afternoon.
You're right. It is about preparing them for society, but then you also have to think about, yeah, school is the way it is. I can give an example. My daughter, she was behind with maths. She goes to this kind of school where you can plan yourself how you want to do your study pace and curriculum. Montessori, it's called. But she didn't do maths because she's really intelligent in like in everything as easy for it. Like she reads constantly books. I go back and forth with big bags of books. But when it comes to math, she's more average, and so it's a struggle because she's not as intelligent in that sense as she in other subjects. So she doesn't do maths that much, and that's fine because we always thought about strength based development. But she needs to do maths as well, obviously, and she really wants to go to her grandparents' place in summer. So my wife told her, "Well, you have all these pages to do, and this is when the school ends. So if you haven't finished, you can't go to grandma's because then you have to stay in here and do maths. So it's up to you." And they were left her alone. And first, second day, she didn't do anything. She was thinking, and we said, "Well, it's up to you." And then suddenly she started doing the maths, and she finished it like yesterday and was so proud. And she still has many days to go. So she calculated, I need to do 4 pages a day and all these kind of things. But she finished it a day in advance. So you can do both in a way, say that this is the consequence if you don't do it. It's up to you, but you have to solve it. And that worked really well with her because then it wasn't like, sit down, do your maths, otherwise you can't have screen time. That's rules. But it was like consequence. You have to do maths. If you don't, you can't go there because then you have to stay here and do maths. Maybe you can do both in a way because she can't just opt out on not doing maths because it's so important to function properly later on in life when it comes to economy or whatever, in a way. Well, that's at least what I think. Maybe later on she will understand it, but then she won't understand and grasp fundamentals of it in a way.
But that is, I think, where my thinking has shifted, in the past 10, 15 years for me. It is, I believe she will learn the math that she needs in her life when she needs it. I believe that in and of people. It's like we have this um you start school in like you're 6 or 7 years old and you need to learn how to read because reading is important and I love reading, right? I'm
Mm.
an avid reader, so I am nothing against that. And we make it into a thing where if you haven't picked up the skill to learn how to read or the skill to read by the time you're 7, 8, we start to tear our hair and put in special treatments and, measures, this, that, and the other thing. Whereas in a society where reading is a thing, kids by themselves pick up reading around the time of 10. They will do that because they see somebody is reading and they start to get curious. Or they want to learn how to make lasagna and mom puts a recipe book in front of them and they go, but we'll figure it out. It's like because we are learning creatures. We wouldn't be alive if we weren't skilled at learning. We learn, we're curious and we learn. This is innately human. But we have a societal norm that says kids have to learn how to read by the age of 7 or 8. Otherwise, they will miss out. They are, and it's like, there are so many kids who are not ready for that. And we make it into a problem rather than just, naturally. Almost all kids who are in in a society where it's like if they are dirt poor and living on the streets in Mumbai with no parents, maybe they don't pick up the skill to read, right? It's like, but that's kind of an extreme, even though there's way too many kids who live that way. But kids who live in a non schooled way, in a society where reading is a thing, they pick up reading, often not later than the age of 10. So again, I think your daughter will even, it's like when she needs to, she will get the math skills that she needs.
Maybe it's not about if we pick apart performance versus behavior. What do you call it? Like behavior or struggle. Then something interesting happened. So when she was done with the maths, I said, "Wow, look what you can do when you put your mind into it. Like you self planned everything, you did everything." So I commended her. I gave her positive feedback on the
The
behavior, not
work, the
the
effort.
work,
Yes.
the effort exactly, and not finishing the math book. And she
Mhm,
was proud, and I saw that something happened in her, and she was like smiling all day,
mhm.
and so because that was what were into, like putting in the work, because that she has. If she can understand that, then she will understand perhaps that she can do whatever she wants if she
Yep.
puts her mind into it.
Yep.
Like she doesn't have
Even
to be
if it's a little
dependent,
bit hard.
even if it's hardship. Exactly, because it's in hardship that we get development. So the focus was, it's up to you, but you can't go because this was what you're supposed to do. It's a consequence, and you don't want to do it. But if you don't want to do it, it's up to you. But if you want to do it, do it. And then once she did it, it was the effort that we gave her positive reinforcement, not the result. And there, I think we can be much better in parenting, but also in our society, to reward the effort and not the result, because otherwise we go around being performance junkies and constantly want to show off our results rather than being proud of the effort.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't
And
take
I mean,
away
the
the
entire
effort
school system is built on the
on
results.
result. Absolutely. And I would say it's like a filtering mechanism to find people that will move society forward. Like, where do we have engineers? And you look for those that come out as engineer material rather than looking into the effort, looking into what does that person want
And
to
the
do.
human, yeah.
Yeah, and we're having a problem right now in our society because there's a lot of jobs that we don't have the competence for, because we focus so much on the results that we haven't noticed that the world is changing around us. Like, what do we need in 5, 10, 15 years? We haven't been on top of that, rather than focusing on on the effort. And in a way, but yeah, so you need to pick apart results and efforts, and challenge and encourage efforts and not the results, rather than just leaving it to do what you want in a way, because then I think effort is really important, because that gives you the power to do whatever you put your mind into. And I think that's important, rather than finishing that math book in a way.
And
That's what I think. And I'm humble. I'm not saying I'm the best parent in the world and I figured it out. If
no,
I had,
no,
I would
me
probably,
neither, not even close. But
but yeah,
what I hear you say, I agree with. I agree. And I also see I've had a lot of reflection on the concept of effort, or rather efforting, where we have this world where work hard, work hard, work hard is like the thing. You need to hustle. You need to, if you haven't made it yet, work a little bit harder and then you'll make it. Which
yeah,
actually, for me, is kind of the opposite to what you were speaking about strength based. Uh, you know,
yeah,
where are your strengths? What do you really love doing? And again, I'm not against effort, but I'm against efforting. I'm against, or I really have a hard time when we laud working hard, sweat and, go at it and you can do it. Because I think that we kind of miss out on a lot of fun
Yeah,
and we
absolutely.
miss out on a lot of relation as well.
Yeah.
I had a gardening party a couple of weeks ago because I'm turning 50 shortly. And I asked a handful of friends if they could come and help me in the garden. And then I borrowed a wheelbarrow from the neighbor. And he came and he said, "Gardening party? Like, did you just ask?" I was like, "Yes, I just asked friends, and they are happy to come." When we have this, it's the hustle, it's the working hard, it's the efforting. We don't learn even how to ask friends for help, you know? So it's like we are in one way, it is a way to keep us as a society or as a culture down because we're so busy working so hard that we're so fatigued we can't, cause any mayhem, cause any problems. But it also keeps us from the collective. It keeps us from reaching out a hand and saying to my neighbor, "Hey, can I borrow the wheelbarrow?" Um, because we are taught to a large extent that you have to, uh, själv är bäste dräng, we say
Yeah.
in Swedish.
Yeah. Manage
It's
on your
like,
own.
yeah,
But
precisely.
it comes from like not one bothering anyone else.
Which is weird because,
Yes, it is.
hey, I just said, 10 minutes ago, we are not solo creatures.
Yeah.
We're born to belong to a pack, right? It's like, do we bother each other then? Yes, because that's what we're supposed to do. I'm supposed to be here with you in the way that I'm not minimizing myself, but I'm not stepping on you either. It's like, no, but there's an interaction that is to our benefit, our mutual benefit, right? You
Yeah.
give me some tankespjan, I give you some tankespjan.
Absolutely.
You say something and I go, huh, I've never thought about that. I say something and you laugh. We say something and we start to connect to other people. It's like, this is that weave, right?
Yeah, yeah. I listened to another podcast where the person hosting the post podcast said, if you want someone to like you, ask them for a favor because then they get emotionally invested into you. And I
Yeah,
really love that, in a
yeah,
way, right? So if you want someone to like you, ask them for a favor
yeah.
because then people do it because you don't. It's very rare that people will say no to you just because they don't want to help you. You won't help because it makes you feel good. Like
Yeah, yeah,
giving a gift is quite satisfying.
yeah.
So I like that. Like if you want someone to like you, ask them for a favor. It's not the other way around. Like when you bother them, they will think that you're a pain. It's quite the
No,
opposite.
precisely, precisely. And I mean, the research has shown over and over again that we want to make a contribution, which means if somebody asks me for something and I can help, I will. And I like being asked. And then you ask the same people, and how many of you like asking? And nobody raises their hand. And it's like, but you can't have one without the other.
Yeah,
If everybody wants to be of a system, we wants to be of service, but nobody is asking, nobody is inviting us to be of service, yeah, we won't have the benefit and the you know the pros, the benefits that comes from being of service if nobody asks, if nobody is open with, "Hey, I can't do this on my own. It's too heavy, it's too hard, I don't have the skills. I'm just 2 hands, I need 5 hands," whatever it is. If we don't own up to that, well, nobody those other 3 hands won't get to help.
yeah. Really good thoughts. Mm. I will have a monologue later on today with this topic and really rediscover my parenting and see if I can how I can adapt it better
Cool.
to the needs of the kids and the persons that they are at the moment.
And I think also one of the things about parenting is to be in the movement of it. Because it's easy to kind of you set a rule or you set up a system when your kid is 3 years old. And then you kind of stick to it instead of realizing, okay, now my kid is 3.5 and has learned more. Or now my kid is 5 and has learned way more and have different needs, have different skills. So you always have to be, evolving. There has to be movement there too. And I would say the same thing is true for me as an adult. I mean, I'm turning 50. What served me yesterday might or might not serve me today. It's not
True.
necessarily so that, I find the routine that works for me and I stick to it, period. Like, maybe but maybe not. And if I don't ever go back and like question it, it's like, does this still serve me? Does it serve me on a daily basis? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I should do it on a weekly basis instead. Yeah, it's like to be like that. I think that's one of the things that I kind of, it's like I see that also in parenting. It's like you kind of make your kids smaller than they are
Mm.
because when they were that small, you set up that rule or that habit or that way of being. And then you don't consider the fact that they are growing. So you need to like
Yeah.
shape shift so that the room that they are in is just the right size for their growth. It's like there's enough resistance, but there's also enough space. Um, there's enough rules, but there's also enough cuddles. And it shifts.
So if you could jump into a time machine and go back, what would you do differently in your parenting?
Oh, so much. So much. Um, I mean, and some of it is painful, right? I mean, some of it is, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I was like that. I would do anything to not have done that, and I can't because I don't have a time machine. I can't go back. Um, I was, I divorced weeks before my first kid was born. So I was alone with her for the first 3 years. Um, and now and again, I was you know, I was on the edge of breakdown, and when you're the only parent around,
Yeah.
sorry, but you're actually, you can't, but you do.
Did you ask for help?
I did ask for help now and again.
Okay.
So I think again, and I also both want to honor the fact that I did the best I could, even when that best was shit. It was still the best I could at the time
Hmm.
in the situation. But also, I kind of want to own my shit. And I don't want to shame myself or guilt myself for it because that's a cycle that I wanna break.
Yeah,
I
I understand.
really, really wanna break that cycle, and, I'm doing that now. I'm 50, my kids are 17 and 22. I'm breaking that cycle now so that when I see my kids act in a way where I can see the impact that I've had on them. My parenting on them now has put them here and here. Oh my God, if I had been a different parent, a better person, a better parent, maybe they would have been better able to handle today and not blame myself for that, but
Yeah,
rather, yes, just Just take it. Just take it. Not go and beat myself up over that because then that will just continue. Because then they will start to beat themselves up for not being better. It's like, and then that cycle
absolutely.
continues.
But the 22-year-old, you proud of her? Is she like a awesome person? Obviously, you would say yes. I guess it's quite a leading
Yeah,
question. So
yeah,
you did something right.
yeah,
So how about, like the strength-based thing, focusing on what you
yeah,
achieved as a single mom,
yeah, yeah.
in a way. So
And I
focus on
mean,
that.
it is, it is easy for me to go into the shaming of myself as a
Yeah,
parent. It is. Um, and it's like, I think one of the things that I'm really proud of in my parenting is the amount of conversations I've had with my kids.
well, there you go.
And we can have really, really deep conversations, that are not easy to have. And I've had those. Um, that's something I'm really, really proud of.
Hey,
On a very practical level, if I were to do it again, I would probably teach my kids a totally different way of being when it comes to money, for instance. I would have a much more conscious way of parenting my kids into understanding the impact of money. How do you deal with money? What do you do with money? You can invest money, you can save money, you can spend money, you can earn money. How do you do that? What is that? That is something that I would have
yeah,
done differently that I know today that I didn't really know then. Um,
yeah, but you didn't know that. But I understand what you mean. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and thank you for that. That's a good thought. My youngest one, she's really good at saving money. And then we were at this place called Tropicariet in where
it's,
we had all
yeah,
these
it's a lovely place.
amazing. She
Yes,
wanted to buy. She really likes sengångare. What's that in English? Do you know?
sloth.
Sloth. Yeah, that's right. A sloth. She, for some reason, she's just in love with sloths. And there was this sloth animal that cuddled like a sloth bear, and she wanted to buy it, and it was quite expensive. He said, "I want to pay with my own money." I'm like, "All right, go ahead." And when I came home, my wife was like, she was also supportive, um, which was a new thing because she saved it. She should buy what she wants because that's like a reward for her, and she walks around with it all the time. And a few years ago, I would probably said no because too much money. I'm like, but
Yeah,
now she saved it. She should know how to spend it as well. So
precisely.
so because she's really good at saving money, and she wants to buy that. She's made a really, really conscious decision. She's
Yeah,
only 8, but she's
yeah,
made a conscious decision. She wants that because she doesn't rarely buys anything else, and she
yeah,
wants to put 200 crowns of this. Go ahead. And that was like, I think that helped her realizing that sh by saving money, I can buy money, and that's
yeah,
what money should be for. So you shouldn't save it just for the sake of saving. You should save it for doing the things or buying the things that you want.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
was like a proud moment of me when I said yes right there to her. Uh, in a way. So I understand what you mean.
yeah,
And but how can we make that even better? Yeah, I understand what you mean with the thing because you shouldn't save money for the sake of saving money. You should.
No, you shouldn't spend it for the
It
sake of
enables you
spending either.
yeah, exactly. It enables you to do things, and you should focus on that. That
Yeah,
it enables you to do things rather than, being rich, which
yeah,
is again, we go into the performance thing.
yeah, yeah,
That's shouldn't be an
yeah.
objective. It's more like having what you need so you can live the life you want. And
That's
money
so
is an
true.
enabler, not the only enabler, but one of the important enablers for that. Yeah. All right. That's a good one. Thank you for that, sharing that,
Yeah,
Helena.
yeah. It's
And
it's it's interesting to kind of see this and how it plays out in my 2 kids and what they do and how they spend money and how they save money and, how what
rather
I do
in
to save money for them and all of this. And so again, there's some potential for really good conversations.
yeah, but
Um,
also distinguish difference between saving and investing.
yeah,
I think that's important too because that's where we sometimes think that investing is all about risks and you can lose it, and then you save it and you still lose because the inflation makes the money less
go
worth.
backwards.
Go
Yes.
backwards instead. So
Yeah,
all that thinking, that thinking
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, but you should really be proud of that you can talk with your oldest, or with your children in a really deep way because there's a
Yes.
lot of parents that can't find that elevation in the relationship where you can have those conversations because it feels weird or awkward. I don't know how to do it, but throughout all the things you've done, you've learned how to talk. And I think that is so
Yeah,
valuable and shouldn't be underestimated because there's a lot of parents out there that can't have those talks. And um, when I do mistakes and hey, I'm a parent, I do them. I'm getting so much better at going to my kids and apologizing in a really way and saying that I'm sorry. And so I can show to them that it's also human. You can make mistakes as a human. So what you said before about those parents that always was composed and could talk. Yeah, that's admiring, but I don't know if it's good either in a way because then you don't show the nuances of being a human. Because you can have a bad day and take it out on your loved ones, even though you don't want to, as long as you can afterwards explain that it wasn't about them, it was about you, you what happened to you, and you apologize in a way. You give the sense that you have an equal relationship because if you want them to apologize when they do something wrong, you
yeah, you
damn
have to
sure you
model
need to
it.
model
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And imagine being a perfect parent, and the kids would not realize that it's okay to not be perfect, and that scares me as well in a way.
yeah. It scares me too. One of the best things about COVID for me was the Christmas of 2020 when, um, my mom is the one that we've usually spent Christmas with, and she was 77 or something then. I called her up beginning of December and said, Christmas? And she said, no. And I said, okay, because we really didn't meet up. Um, but so my kids were like, okay, we're having Christmas, just 3 of us. And my youngest then realized we don't have to do traditional Christmas food. No, we don't. We can do whatever we want. And so we set up this, we made tapas of all sorts. We were spending hours in the kitchen and so we started with Kalle, the very traditional Donald Duck on
Yeah,
Swedish TV at 3
3 o'clock.
a.m.,
Yeah,
3 p.m.
3 a.m.
on Christmas Eve. Um, that's been going since the 50s, where I had told my kids I will have fika ready and I will be watching Kalle on my laptop because we don't have a TV. And you're free to join me. You don't have to join me. It's like, but after that, we will start to cook. So I set up fika and I called up to them and said, there's fika for you. And I sat down on the sofa to watch Donald Duck and they took fika and sat down with me. And so that's when our like Christmas started. And then we cooked and then we sat down and ate. And my oldest said, can't we do that thing where we ask each other questions? Like, yeah, sure. And so one person asks a question and the others answer. And
Is
man,
is it like truth or dare without the dare, in a way?
yeah, it's just, what are you curious about? What are,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
amazing.
it's like, what do you like about yourself? Or,
Wow.
you know, my, my oldest said to her little brother, she said, if you look back at the way you treated me when we were younger, do you ever regret treating me in a shitty way? And he was like, yeah, I do. I can see that I was a brat. It's like, so all types of questions, including sexuality, including my youngest asking, Mom, why did you and Dad divorce? This is my answer, and I gave it. Um, And my youngest also asked me about parenting. Is there anything that you would have done differently as a parent? And I told him. Um, and to that, my answer was this thing of where once in a while I'm afraid that he's kind of I've been afraid now and again that he'll turn into your traditional man, you know, with a large distance between himself and his emotions, not able to speak about his emotions and those, falling into the traditional role in a sense. We had a really lovely back and forth about that. Um, and it was amazing. And
It sounds
we
amazing.
so I think at like after 10 p.m. We from 3 p.m. till 10 p.m., we were just in this dynamic relation weaving. And then they went up to their rooms and stuff. And it was just the most wonderful feeling. And I wrote about this. I wrote a piece about the most magical Christmas Eve ever. And I share that because I was doing the story skills workshop at a Kimbo workshop right then. So I wrote the story of this and I shared the story in the story skills. And the feedback pointed me to just what you were pointing to was, oh my God, that you can have this type of conversation with your kids is absolutely amazing. Because in the story, I also wrote about my fears of me not being a good parent and my fears of all the things that I've done wrong and whatnot. And what people pointed to was this fact that, shit, there's no way I could have that type of conversation with my parents.
Yes,
So
and
you having that type of conversation with your kids is like, wow. So it was a really
yeah.
fantastic. The experience was fantastic. The writing of my experience of it was fantastic. And then receiving this type of feedback just, put again opened up a new layer for me to see that, yes, I have sucked as a parent in many ways, but fuck, I've also been really, really good at it in other ways.
Hey, you know what? Maybe it wouldn't be good in the other ways that really count now if you didn't suck in the other ways, because then you find the way of adapting and solving that. Like I said, making mistakes gives me um, gives me the opportunity to apologize and show myself human to my kids, so they can understand that it's not about them, because they will meet grown-ups when they now or when they get grown-ups themselves that will treat them as asses. And
Yeah,
they will probably hopefully understand that from my mistakes that, hey, it's not about me, it's about them. And,
yeah,
and they'll just shrug their shoulders and walk on. But if I don't mess up sometimes and can apologize, then they will not be used to that. if I'm the perfect parent. And then when someone does something to them, they will not be able to disconnect that it's not about them. It's about the person in a
Yeah.
way. So I think to be honest, I think it's quite difficult to fail as a parent as long as you don't do it voluntarily in a way. Because I can say that I never had conversations with my parents about deeper things or talking about my emotions, but I'm pretty good at it.
Mm.
And so I think there is a lot of things coming from inside that you're quite immune to other people destroying or parents destroying in a way. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves and do our
Yeah.
best in a way and not look backward. The way I asked you before was so I can learn from you, not to put some conscience on you that you didn't right. Well, I was just curious from my own perspective. So um, I think we should look forward the way you're doing and trying to make amends and having those amazing Christmas
Yeah.
Eves and having them
Yeah.
again. And maybe you couldn't have had them if you jumped into that time machine and went back and did things differently.
I
Maybe
don't
then you will lose that amazing
precisely.
thing. And
Yeah.
you should never sacrifice having that kind of connection with your kids. That you can talk to them like that, Lena. That is amazing. And I hope I can do that with my kids. I'm trying to build that today so we can have those conversations in the future. Because I want to know what goes on in their minds when they're older, not to tell them as a parent, but be there as a friend, an adult that they can really rely on, that they always know that wants their best.
Yeah.
In a way, like imagine having that kind of person. I never had that kind of person in my childhood in a way, but I turned out pretty good anyway. So
Yeah,
it,
you
it,
did.
it takes like they're not that fragile for our failed parenting. To be honest, I don't think
No,
so.
and I mean, it's also very much ingrained in us, this thing of parents are important or guardians are important.
Yeah,
'Cause it's not necessarily a parent, but people around you that love you and you know, are there for you. It is so important. And I've always been that's one of the things that I'm proud of as a parent and have been throughout. It's like I have set my kids up, especially my oldest, and given the circumstances, I've set her up so that she has or rather, maybe I haven't stood in the way. Maybe that's a better way of doing it. Because there are people around her, adults, be they my mother or my sister or my aunt, or be they my friends, or be they my ex-husband's former girlfriend, you know, adults who take an interest in my kids. I have always encouraged that. I have never felt, "Oh, but they should come to me because I'm mom and I'm supposed to be the most important and all of this," so that I kind of, deflect, but rather go ahead. I love the fact that my oldest has a number of other people in her life that are significant and that she knows that they are there for her. She
yeah.
knows that she doesn't only have me to lean on. She has a lot of other people to lean on. And that is just I love that. To the extent that when um my paternal aunt was she and my oldest, they had a very, very special relationship with when my oldest was younger. And my oldest loved her way more than she loved me. It's like, "Who's your favorite person in the on earth?" He's like, "Faster Anne, Aunt Anne." And he's like, "Okay." It's just it is the way it is, and it's fine. Um, but to have that and not I haven't ever been threatened by that. I haven't ever felt that I need to kind of guard my importance in the lives of my kids, but rather open it up in the way that I'm so happy that they have other people around that are important in their lives and that they can on.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, don't let your history block the amazing person that you are, in a way, when looking back, because that all that is like chess moves to who the person
Yes.
that you are today.
Mhm.
And if you change one move, well, then the whole outcome will be different,
Yeah.
in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's amazing. And I hope I one day can have that kind of a Christmas Eve with my with my kids. Then
Yeah.
that sounded so
And
wonderful.
yeah, and it's like we couldn't have planned that. It's
Not,
like there's no way to say, okay, tonight we will be having the most earth shatteringly
uh,
authentic and deep conversation. Everybody ready? No, it doesn't work like that. It's like
no,
everything just kind of came together and it just turned out to be the most fantastic
yeah. But
Christmas Eve.
at the same time, if you weren't the way you are with each other, then you wouldn't have seized that opportunity either.
No, no, no.
So you could have planned it, but there is some kind of an embryo or seed
Yeah, yeah.
there
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because
yeah.
if that had been like the first deep, honest, authentic conversation, yeah. It was coming on like a string of pearls. It's like then there's this gigantic pearl all of a sudden. It's
Yeah,
like,
and
yes,
hopefully more
that was
pearls
that
to come.
Christmas Eve. Yeah,
And hopefully more huge pearls to come,
there
because
are.
you put that foundation
Yeah,
in place,
yeah,
with your parenting,
yeah,
that we talked about before,
yeah,
by being human, being vulnerable, and they know that they can ask those questions because, you will not judge them because you already judged yourself so much
mm,
in the past, and you are honest and with your feelings. They're in a safe space with you, so they encourage and take the initiative to have those kind of conversations with you. That is such a good receipt on your parenting that you should cherish that
yeah,
and not don't look back.
yeah. It's quite a treasure. It is. What about you? I mean, you're like more in active parenting in a way than I am, but what about you? What do you see that you've done in your parenting that you're really proud of?
Well, what I mentioned before, like being able to talk to them about my shortcomings, definitely. Um, what I mentioned in the previous podcast, where helping them resolve the conflicts with each other, like facilitating, uh, really open for their ideas, initiatives, and doing that, or maybe co-creating with them what we should do. They're getting better and better at it because at the beginning they couldn't handle it, but now they're coming with ideas, and we can like crossbreed our ideas and do something together. But sometimes also not giving them attention, just letting them be bored, so that they can be creative and find something from that. Not always find a solution like, Dad, I'm bored. All right, what do you want to do? Oh, listen to this. Well, I don't feel like that at the moment. I'm gonna go in the kitchen and cook. Do you want to join me? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. Well, then that's that's my offer because I need to do it because we need to eat. Then you need to do something else and not scream. Find something else, and then they do puzzle or they do puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. They go out in the garden and throw the ball around. Um, I think Astrid Lindgren said that you should love your kids to death, but you should sometimes also neglect them, in a way. And I believe that's true as well because like helping them not become those dopamine junkies when they constantly have at the fingertips getting the dopamine. I mean, sometimes they need to um, find their own way of entertaining themselves rather than always be entertained. I think that's important too. But I'm also proud of how they can lose themselves in books because that's always been important. Like my wife reads a lot. I don't read that much. I read maybe one book a week, perhaps something like that. But
Which is a lot if you compare it
yeah,
to
it is. It
everybody
is.
else.
Right. Compared to my wife, who reads 3, 4 books a week, but they read like we go with those deep, like grocery store bags to the
To the
library,
library.
and now I've teach them how to taught them how to order books through the library themselves. I give them an iPad. Sometimes they can do that, and then the books, show up, and I go and pick them up and for them, and then suddenly next day there's already the pile in the hall with books that we're going to return just grows, and every time I see that, I get so proud, like
Mm.
them losing because it's amazing to lose yourself in someone else's world, finding empathy, being able to reflect on other lives, and it's a good escape and a good way of opening up that portal to another world through books. So it's not about reading; it's about the future is learning to read, but the benefit is opening up to different worlds, parallel worlds. I just love that, so we can have discussions about that, and like they can find compare themselves and empathy and all those kind of things.
Do you read for them out loud? You or your wife?
Not anymore, but we used to read a lot for them when they were really really small, like when they were from the age of 3, 4. Like every night before we said goodnight to them, especially my wife, we always read pages from different kind of
Because
books, and,
if
and I
if
think
I
that's
could
that
if
laid
I
the
could go
foundation.
yeah, if I could go back, I would not have stopped reading to my kids,
Yeah, well, there you go.
actually.
Exactly. Yeah,
Because I can, um I think that that is a little bit one of the lost
lost arts or
the
yeah,
lost arts, yeah, precisely. It's like there is so much benefit to being able to listen to a story, a well-told story, and to have that. And just, I can paint this picture of sitting at the sofa, there's somebody else reading out loud to me. Um, I get this warm, fuzzy feeling. It's like it's never happened. Right? But I can imagine it, I can picture it, and it's like so that's one of the things that I would not have stopped doing. I would have kept on.
yeah,
And I think it's because my mom says that when I learned how to read and when I was 7, I just never, I was never found without a book in my hand again. I just kept on reading. So I'm guessing it's the same for her that she read until then. And then I just, took to it like a fish in water
yeah. I
and
guess
kind of she didn't have to anymore. But I wish that she had, and I wish that I had. Um,
had what? Sorry.
had kept on reading out loud to my kid, had
Ah,
kept on doing that. The communal aspect of it, the sharing of that world that
yeah.
opens up.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you mean. Sometimes we read, now we're starting to read the same books like Harry Potter and things like that. We can
Yeah,
have discussions about good versus evil and then
yeah.
those kind of things. So, yeah, like this weekend, the weather wasn't that great sometimes, and I just have this picture like me lying on the sofa, and at the end, my oldest daughter and the younger daughter was lying in the other couch, and then my wife was out with the dog, and we were like read book. We had one book each, like just sitting there and reading rather than having the TV on. And yeah, I think that I
Yeah,
tried. I
it's
looked around and I was like, ah, this is amazing. Us reading our own book in a way. So yeah, I'm proud of that as well. That so you don't have to always engulf a story through a visual. You can also do it by listening, because I started to listening to books as well, but also reading, so in order to find their own way of um, getting a good story.
yeah, you paint a picture in a different way when you hear it or see it in words rather than see it enacted.
Yeah.
A
And then
lot
we have
happens.
another thing that I'm really, really grateful of, that we have like a cultural house, right? Like 100 meters where we live. And there they can learn theater, dance, play instruments. Some our oldest just signed on to a writing class, what they call as a imaginative exercise.
Oh, cool.
And they're trying out different kind of things, like playing the cello, playing the violin, playing the flute, dancing. They're gonna do 3 classes each, like, and I wish I had those opportunities when I was smaller because we didn't. I was into sports, so I got that kind of a um, stimuli instead. But the cultural aspect that like having that
Y-
so close to us is amazing.
You know what? The improv thing that you
Yeah.
and me are gonna do. Uh, I got a text from one of my friends who also listens to each of these episodes, and he said, "Stop reading my mind." And I went, "What?" And he said, "Improv." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I'll tell you tomorrow." And he said that he'd been looking into doing improv. Uh,
Well, let's go, three of us.
so he's found there's a couple of meetup groups in Malmö who does improv on a weekly basis where you can just show up. So yes, yes, yes,
Yep,
there is
let's do
this.
it. And I'm not focusing on the performance. I am focusing on the journey of doing it because I will probably
Precisely.
suck at it, but that doesn't matter because it's not
No.
a performance thing. It's just the feeling of letting go and just like letting the circumstances guide you. Like I'm really looking forward to that exciting,
Yeah.
uncomfortable thing.
And it's interesting. I had therapy on Monday and we were speaking about just this thing of letting me, not even letting go, but letting me do and be and
Yeah,
say, because I have this. Dominic was telling me to make a noise. So I said, bah. And he said, okay, continue to do that. And I did. And he looked at me and I said, I'm doing it in my head. He said, okay, can you do it out loud? So then I had to go, but, but, but. And then I felt so conscious of myself, so self conscious that then opened up this entire new like conversation where I can picture myself doing or saying or being in motion or no, but actually to do it, to let my physical body do the thing that I see in my head, I have there's a dampener there. I have a high threshold to actually make that sound come out or make that movement come out. And I think improv is a great entryway to help me. Let me do that. Let
yeah.
me say that. Let me be that. Let me be in motion. So I have not forgotten it. And it's really been coming up as, yes, this is, this is a path that I really want to go down. I want to minimize that threshold within me so that I don't stop myself from letting myself
Yeah.
be and do.
I don't even know if it's the right thing. I'm just curious to see if it is the right thing to give it a try. But I don't even have those thoughts in my head. Sometimes I just want to get more crazy thoughts and then act on it.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I feel like I'm getting more and more serious. Like I need to like find the inner child of me again. So that's what I'm looking forward to exploring. Is this? It feels like it, but I don't know. But is this the right thing to do from that perspective? I believe so, but I definitely want to like
Yeah.
give it a go and let giving it a go and letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. Precisely. I'll send you the links to those meetup
Yes,
groups,
and
because
let's
he'd found two that do English improv, but they do it here in Malmö. But there are a couple of Swedish ones as well. Um, so I'll send you those, and then we can
please
can
do.
find find a date because that feels helpful. It feels helpful to do this together to hook arms with you
Yeah,
and go there together. Um, just that lowers the thresholds a
it
little bit.
does, and also someone that also thinks it's difficult, that gives a little
and
bit of a comfort
scary.
that is scary. Yeah,
Yeah,
it also feels that it's scary because that gives sort of a comfort. I think
yeah,
it would be more difficult for me to go if someone said, "This is great. I've done it before. It's so good." I'm like,
yeah,
"Yeah." But with you, that also in like pretty much the same spot in the
yeah,
journey
yeah,
it gives a reassurance that we are discovering it together. So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I need you as well. Like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
my training wheels in a way.
Precise, and it is this thing here. This is us helping each other,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So it's
Yeah,
like I need help, you need help. I can help you, you can help me. Yeah, it's like double whammy.
yeah,
We
definitely.
get all of it. Uh, so yeah, I'll do that. I'll do
Please
that.
do, and I will book it into my calendar straight away. So, so I don't, so it's their plan. So everything else will not interfere with that in my planning.
I'll do that. Well,
Perfect.
I'm curious to know for those who listen to this, what's their version of going to improv with you? You know, that's my version and that's your version as well. That's what we're gonna do. But what, is there anybody listening who has the same? And it doesn't have to be improv, but this thing where you kind of feel that here's an area where I want the shift. I want the cure. I want to open a door. I don't know what's on the other side, but I know this door is here and I'm curious and I want to
Yeah,
open it. And what different ways that might show up in
yeah,
a sense.
yeah. What could be the listeners' way of evolving in the direction they want to?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, is it improv or is it taking driver's lessons, jumping out of a plane,
Mhm.
walk up to someone that you really, really fancy and telling them that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be anything
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way. Or
Yeah.
taking the class or changing your career in the direction that you always want to do but never thought that you should. There's so much things out there.
Yeah. Let's hope for some. I'm asking if you're listening to this, please let us know. Write a comment or send me a text or, find us somehow and let us know what that might look like for you. Yeah. I think that's a good way or a good place to end this.
I agree.
So we've had two now. We have three more to go. Um, and I am there's something so magical to doing this type of meandering conversation with people. It is probably because it makes the strand of thread that is you in my life gets more pronounced. It takes on a different, a more texture, more girth. It's there in a very present way, and I really like that having the five of you like come in and strengthen the weave that is my life right now in such a tangible way. Uh, it's a gift.
Yeah, I agree, and I can see the charm in it, and I get three more opportunities, but I sort of in a way are inspired and also envy you that you get to do this 5 times with 50 other people, or I don't know how many, but it's amazing thing that you have started here with this,
Yeah,
and the thing is not the recording, it's the conversation,
yeah,
and the recording is the means to having the conversation.
yeah.
And so you found a good way of going in depth in people's thoughts
Yeah.
and who they are and what they want to be and all that kind of stuff by
We
using a pod as an excuse in a
Yeah,
way.
precisely, precisely. And this is actually when after the first season, we had two group sessions with everybody. Um but in two slots because everybody couldn't make it to one slot. And we were speaking about just that. What's your 5 by 5? Who's five people that you want to have five conversation with each? You can record it or not. Like you say, that's not the thing. It might be your daughter, or it might be your parent, or it might be your best friend, or it might be the bus driver or the librarian or, a colleague at work or who knows, right? But to the thought of the thought of a 5 by 5 conversation project or experiment in other people's lives is also really, really a thrilling thought for me. So go out and have conversations, Özlem. It's a good thing.
Actually, I had this training with a company, and I had these cards with me with like fantastic questions, and I had them as a little bit of a training on what happens when you build relations by having deeper conversations with your coworkers.
Yeah.
And we did it like for half an hour, but some of the people stayed behind and wanted to keep doing it. So we sat down for like 3 more hours, like picking a card and reading, what are you most proud of about yourself? And then you told that in front of the whole group. And they pick another card and that said that, which person would you want to apologize to? Like those kind of questions, like a conversation aid in the cards. And I had that with strangers. And it was amazing what happens when you have those conversations, how quickly they becoming your friends.
Mm,
And they want to stay behind. And I said, well, why not? Uh, so there is a need of
mm,
opening up and letting showing ourselves, showing our vulnerability to each other. It's in our nature. And this is a fantastic way of doing it. And but there is other ways, like you said, 5 by 5. You can do that with pretty much anyone. Um, yeah. So I I understand what you mean, and I'm not doing it to the extent that you are, but I'm trying to because it's a good feeling
yeah,
to show who you are to someone.
mm.
It is,
Yeah, it
and it
is. We all need to be seen and heard.
100%.
Well, you enjoy the rest of your day, my friend, and I will talk to you again soon.
I'm looking forward to it, and don't forget to send the link.
I won't forget to send the link. I will, I will, I will.
Perfect.
And
Have a great week.
the same. Bye.
Bye.